Hey guys, welcome to the Brew World Order Podcast. My name is Mike Curtin, and today I'm with Chad Bevers of Little Beaver Brewing in Bloomington, Illinois. Chad, how's it
How
going,
you
man?
doing?
Thank you for
Good,
being
man.
with
Thanks for
us.
having me.
Thank you. Appreciate
Glad
it.
to be here.
So, can you tell us a little bit just about yourself and, like where you grew up and how you got into the brewing industry and opened your own brewery?
Yeah, for sure. So I started brewing like 25 years ago, a little somewhere around there. I still live in Central Illinois in the Bloomington normal area. This is where I was from, born and raised, never really left. I got into homebrew just because there used to be a brewery in town called Illinois Brewing Company, IBC, and we hung out there all the time. It was just our place. And then I ventured off into trying new beers, and I knew that, of course, they made beer, even though hung out there. I never tried them.
Right.
But I finally just decided to start trying new stuff, and I tried their Porter from Hell because I had a Guinness and naturally felt like I drink dark beer now, so I drank all the dark beers. And they had this beer called Porter from Hell, and it was 9%. It looked like oil in a glass. I mean, no head, no bubbles, no nothing. It was a full pint glass, 9% alcohol, and I'm just looking at it like, what did I do? Like, oh my God, this looks not right at all. And then I drank it, and then it was just like, just opened this whole new world up to
Flavor
me.
explosion.
But then, yeah, I was
Yeah.
there a couple months later, and I had ordered that beer, and the bartender said that it wasn't available anymore, and I was like, what? Like, I knew Blue Moon and Miller Lite and Sam
Right.
Adams
Of
and
course.
stuff that's always on the shelf anywhere you go. It
Right.
doesn't run out, and that's so this was the first time in my life that I heard about a beer not being available, and it hurt my head. And so the bartender said, "Well, just talk to the guy next to you, and he can explain you why, because I don't know anything about when we'll have it or if we will." And then he turned out to be the brewer, of course, and so he took me on a tour. And by the time it was done, I was like hooked. I was like, this is gonna be a really cool hobby. So that's what I did, and then it just kind of got more and more and more and more advanced, and then over the years, eventually, just kind of grew up to what it is, I guess. But the filling in the gap from starting to homebrew to actually opening a brewery, a lot of that was over the years. I got into different styles, and then I felt like I'd mastered a style, at least to my taste preferences. I don't feel I've mastered anything as far as the world exposure and things like that go. But for what I was seeking, I would get to one style, I'd figure it out, and then I'd do another. Um, and then I started getting into competitions because I was like, wow, this seems like a cool thing. And, as adults, a lot of us don't earn trophies and get ribbons and, special recognition and things like that. So when you first do it, it's kind of addicting, like, oh, this is kind of cool, and plus it was also great feedback and stuff like that because you'd find out, like, I thought this beer was great. What did these judges think about it? Or why didn't it, what didn't they like or what did they like? So it really helped me learn a lot of stuff. But I think it was like 2014, 2015. I submitted stuff into the Great American Beer, no, not the Great American Beer Festival,
Homebrew.
the American Homebrewers
Right.
Association. Yeah, their annual competition, and I ended up getting a silver medal for the specialty strong stout category or something like that, and that was really exciting. And then that same year, I was a finalist for the Sam Adams long shot competition that they used to do, and as a finalist, I won a trip out to Denver to GABF. They flew my wife and I out there. I got to do the whole limo driver picking me up with the name tag that said Beavers on it and all that. And, it was an awesome experience, but I didn't win. And when I found out that I didn't actually win, my wife just turned to me and said, "You're you should probably open a brewery because obviously people like your beer,
Right.
and there's never going to be a better time." But I was kind of hesitant to do that because we didn't have the money that I could just quit my job and I'm just going to go chase my dream.
Of
So
course.
in order for me to do it, it was just going to be straight up moonlighting, and so it was, and it was really really hard. The big thing that kept me from ever originally really wanting to do a brewery was I didn't want to be a deadbeat dad. I didn't want to be away from my kids. I had two little girls
Right.
that were born in 12 and 13, so they're still 8 and 9 years old. But I didn't want to never be around, and my wife said, it's never going to get easier. So I think now's the time. So we did, and I reached out to a friend of mine that had helped me for a while at beer festivals and things like that. I could go on for hours and hours. By the way, I'm kind of trying to condense this down a little bit
That's fine. That's
for
fine.
your
Yeah.
listeners here. But I ended up getting involved with a large beer festival here in town, and I was the beer guy for that for
Was that
about eight
the
years.
arugula?
The Brew Beer Festival.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Very
So,
cool.
and that was it was pretty awesome because it put me in touch with the industry, with the customers, with the fans, and also distributors, other breweries, working in festivals. But it was also an opportunity for me to share my beer. And so I was setting up my own table at all these beer festivals, dating back now probably, 14, 15 years ago, some. And it was awesome because to me the best thing about homebrewing was sharing it with people, and then I had this once a year like opportunity to share as much as I could possibly have ready with as many people as came out there. And I think we were getting like 4 or 5 thousand people throughout the weekend, maybe more. So it was a really good turnout at that festival. And then that just kind of steamrolled and steamrolled. And so when I was ready to start, I had a friend of mine who was helping me with those festivals and things. Reached out to him, and he was interested in getting involved with me. So we launched a Kickstarter campaign. It got gobbled up pretty fast. So that was awesome. That felt really good. Then we started down the path of where are we going to be? Like, you know, what's the model? Are we just going to do small batches and just release them in bottles or cans? Or as the can at the time, it would have been just bottles. Nobody was really like small places like us into canning yet. But then found out that the zoning in our community wasn't set up and necessarily ready for that. So I got to do, I'd read stories of breweries that wanted to start, and then all of a sudden I had to spend the first, year going through legislation changes and all that stuff.
Right.
And I just, man, that sucked. I never want to do that. And then all of a sudden, here guess what? I'm the one who gets to do all that. So it's been great for the other breweries in our community because it's already set up. It's already for them. They may not even know of the struggles that we had to go through to get this started. But at the same time, it also put us in a really good light with our local community because we were in the limelight, so to speak, and zoning meetings, city council meetings. We've been in front now, I don't know, a dozen times in front of the liquor commission. Fortunately, never for ever getting in trouble or anything.
Right.
Just the stages that you go through in business growth and development and things like that. So we're getting pretty familiar with how the city functions and all those things. But I can absolutely understand now, going through everything we've gone through from inception to where we are today, why people hire consultants and things like that. Somebody who's been through this process to hold your hand would just save so much money, so much time, and so many headaches. It's not even funny. But a lot
Right.
of us, especially
It's
brewers,
worth
we
the money.
feel we can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you don't have the money to just pay somebody right off the bat, what else you going to do? But in the same sense, at least now we know it, and so we've already got a list. If we ever do another place, here's what we know, here's what we learned, here's what's going to happen, here's what's not going to happen. So I think definitely beneficial to have learned what we did and what we've gone through. So, but
Gotcha.
what else what kind of other areas so I can kind of keep targeted with what you'd like to know here?
Oh no, I mean I'll ask as we go, but
Hmm.
that's yeah, that's pretty much what I was wanting to know how you got into it, and yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah. So
So
when I started it though, I was working full time for a very large nonprofit food bank here in town,
okay,
and so that was the struggles early on. When we were just open one day a week before we opened all that stuff, and I was working 8, 9, 10 hour days there, and then
right,
transitioning into the brewery. The few friends of mine that were working brewing with me, they also had day jobs, so it was a group of several of us guys in our late 30s and 40s.
burning the candle at
Just
both ends.
yeah, like unbelievable, man. And I look back at that now, like how the hell did we do that? Because it
Smart
was
motivation.
dude, I'm telling you, like I'd leave the house at 7 a.m. and I'd get home at 2 a.m. But then all of a sudden I realized that I was becoming that deadbeat dad that I never wanted to be.
Right.
And so my wife and I were looking for another house because we had kind of downgraded when we had kids and felt like it was a good time to kind of upgrade. And I said, I don't think now's the time to keep shopping for a house. And she wondered why. And I said, because I think I need to quit my job. So I left a good, a really good job as the executive director of a large nonprofit to just go make beer. So she's a good one. She's definitely a keeper there to let me go through that. But things have gotten a lot
That's
better over
great.
the years now. So
Good for
yeah.
you, man.
So what kind of questions you got for me now that you know how we got here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say was the most challenging part for you when actually opening your brewery, when you first opened the doors?
Like getting up to opening, or what?
Like when you
What did we
first
find
opened
out?
the doors, what was the most challenging part for you?
Uh, it's kind of hard. Um, Probably everything because everything was new. I had never
Right.
worked in a bar, neither my business partner. Quite frankly, neither was any of our original employees, which were pretty much just close friends and stuff. So everything we learned, we were learning as we went. So from the professional brewing side of the operation, all I ever was a home brewer. And so learning all this new equipment, learning all these new processes, all these new procedures, all the while learning all the laws, all the, making sure we're abiding by local health department, local liquor commission, everything going on. It was really pretty rough, but I would say that probably the biggest challenge that we had was definitely a positive one, and that was just that uh, we had way more people coming in than we ever thought.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it was really good. I mean, we looked at our numbers to do this. This was just a shoestring kind of thing where, we didn't, go and borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything. It was me and my business partner. How can we make this work? And so we did, we looked at like if we have three people come in every day and they each have 2 pints, and we're open four, we were doing math like this,
Right.
like what's the
Like, of
minimum
course.
that we need
Yeah.
to make sure that the bills are paid so that our wives will allow us to have this clubhouse, slash brewery thing that we're building here that we had no idea what it
Right.
could turn into.
The whole
And so
analysis.
then, yeah. And so
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing is like what we budgeted for like the first month or whatever coming in, we did in like the first couple hours of being open. And so then it became like, oh crap, you know, we're going to need a bigger boat kind of thing here,
Right.
like
Exactly. Yeah.
we're definitely going to need to hire a couple more people because we're going to need to have more beer. We're going to need it more often. But that was also if that kept up, was this just, hey, was this a brand new venue and people wanted to come and check it out? They've been trying the stuff locally at
Of
this
course.
festival for years, or was it sustainable? And fortunately, it was sustainable, and it just kind of continued to build and build and build. And we started to learn what styles our customers wanted, and what worked well and what didn't work well. All the while, that first pretty much year doing very minimal, if any, bottles. Because it was just hand packaging 22
Right.
ounce bomber bottles. So it was all pretty much draft, few accounts that we had throughout town and stuff. But we didn't have enough beer to really chase. We were brewing dual 60-gallon batches for our first year,
Okay.
so it was nice having a tiny tap room because anytime we'd brew, we could do two batches in about the same exact amount of time as just doing one. But the downside was you only had four half barrel kegs after you
Right.
got done with all that time, all that work. And I don't know how much you know about the actual brewing process, but the
Yes.
steps take just about as long.
Of
Your
course.
brew day is not much
No matter how
longer if you
big.
go,
Right.
yeah, and the
It's all the
fermentation
same
time
amount
is
of
going to
time.
be the same. Yeah, and so that's that economy of scale that you start to really get into, which
Right.
really allows you, to do a whole lot more as you start to grow. And then that's where we kind of started getting after year one, is where we were able to upgrade our brew system, and just really kind of start digging into what can we do. But that first year was really really helpful for me because I knew what beers I liked, I knew what beers I liked to make, but I
Right.
didn't know what beers everybody else would want. And it's still always hard to tell that, and my tastes have changed tremendously from what I was drinking 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago to
Of
now
course.
is radically different. And so that first year, it was just, I was all about, I don't want to brew anything more than once or twice. I'll do it again if it went well, or if I feel like I can do better and I want to try. But a lot of it was just constantly throw it at the wall, see what sticks.
Of course.
And then when we did a few fruit beers, which I like to brew them as a home brewer, but I never really was a big consumer of a lot of fruit beers.
Same.
But then when we started doing them at the brewery, it was just like, oh, okay, a lot of people
You
like
kind of
these.
got to do that.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. To
yeah, yep,
fill that
and
void.
yeah, yeah,
So,
and
quick question.
and
So,
yeah, go
question:
ahead.
Did you opened in? It was 2017 or 18?
God, I think it was 18. So this will
18.
be, yeah, it's been 4 years that we've been open. So
So you open for about 2 years before COVID hit you.
yep.
How did that affect your business? How'd you go about pivoting to make it work and continue to stay in business?
We were in a unique spot. So that year before COVID, or that'd have been 2019, I think.
Right.
I had I had got out of the relationship with my original business partner because I found out he didn't want to grow the company. I had just quit my day job, had a wife and kids at home. I needed a company to be growing in order to pay, pay me something. And so when I found out we were not at all on the same page, I just said this isn't going to work, and we, kind of parted ways. But when I was at the nonprofit food bank for about 5 years, and there's two brothers that run a company in town that does landscaping, snow removal, lawn care, all that stuff. And they had always donated all their services to our nonprofit organization. So I knew them as these great guys that always, donated all these services to us. They'd come and plow our lots all the time. They were always there mowing it. It always looked great. Everything was awesome. And so then when they reached out, they found out that I was going out on my own and asked how, is there any opportunity for them to get involved? They got to know me over the years. They saw what I was doing. It was vice versa. I saw the same thing about them. So they basically became my new business partners.
Gotcha.
And that's when we really kind of stepped it up. They were familiar with small business, familiar with the community, familiar with how a lot of things operate. You may think that there's not a lot of symbiosis with landscaping and a brewery. I
Right.
sure as hell didn't think there was anything. And then it never ceases to amaze me how many things come together. And the biggest one being is we bought the building that first year that we were involved with them, and then it ended up coming down to the week before the Illinois COVID lockdown started. We broke ground on our first really big expansion. So we had bought the building. We actually didn't kick the neighboring unit out until their lease was up, which was 2 years ago in May. So May of 2020. But leading up to that, March till then, it was just building a new parking lot, building a really big outdoor patio, and then the whole idea being that once the neighbors in the connected unit to us were out, that's when we would start to build that out as a new tap room space, put in a full kitchen, and then be able to expand the brewery. So all that took place right during the start and the entire first summer of COVID. So even, it was a really crazy busy summer for us.
Right.
We were running around mad trying to just brew beer without, people they're serving. We let everybody go, laid everybody off right away, like a lot of places did, because we didn't know what's going to happen. We didn't empty tanks. We were just like, let's just sell beer that we have in cans if people even want to leave the house. Unfortunately, they did, man, and they were coming out like mad. We had just constant.
Awesome.
We had the most amazing support through all that first year of COVID, especially. And then it was also fun because the whole time, the world's blowing up around us with everything, not knowing what's going on. And
Right.
all we're doing is just cranking out beer as fast as we can. Let's just do new stuff all the time so everybody's got something to try. And then the other side is we're showing pictures of this patio that we're building and parking lot. And it's right behind our building, but it's like I don't know if you've been to our place or not, but it's a dead end road. It's two dead end roads
Right.
that lead to, we have two different driveways so you can get to the front side of the building or the back side. But
Right.
everybody only knew what is now the back side. So when they were coming there to get beer, they're like, where's this new building you're making? Like, what's going on? We see all this stuff. And we're like, it's just right around back. Just when you leave, just drive down that next road.
Right.
And so it was really a lot of fun. But we built an outdoor container bar, which my business partner Justin did that. So that was built. Huge outdoor, awesome space. Again, they do high end landscaping work for Bella's Landscaping, and so we have this just state of the art, amazing patio, and that was finished. Right about the exact time that Illinois opened up for outdoor dining,
That's
which
great.
was I think July of 2 years ago, and so we missed like 2 days of being able to do that, and then outdoor patio is all we had till October, when we finally got everything else opened up and finished inside, which dropping in a whole new kitchen, a whole new you know indoor dining space, everything
Very
during
cool.
COVID. It really shocked a lot of people when they did finally start to come out and see things, and people that maybe don't follow us on social media, and they'd walk in and be like, I'm just so turned around. I thought it came in this direction and it was just like a little tiny bar, but we're
Right.
like, oh, you're right, it was over there, it was the other building. And so
Switched
it's
it up on you.
yeah, it's that's
So
that's kind of funny just how confused some people are because they didn't know, and they're like, I don't think this is the same place. And we're like, well, it's really not, but it also is. So, anyways, you had a question?
Yeah, so you talk about community and support. What do you think, in your opinion, brings people to your brewery?
I think I mean, obviously it's different for every people. And I say that because one of my goals has always been to find a beer for every person, or for every person to find a beer, I guess is a better way to explain it. When we only had 10 taps in our old tap room, it was kind of hard to do. You had to have a dark beer, a fruity beer,
Right.
something sour, something light. You only had 10 different taps, and you figure there's 25 styles probably easily that someone could be looking at. Not to mention, you always want to have multiple IPAs to appease the IPA people, different stouts, everything. So it was really hard to do with 10 taps. But when we did this big expansion, we knew we wanted more, so we did 24 taps. And then now we've added the 8 outside in the container. We recently went through and added 6 more taps inside. So we went from where we used to have 10 taps to now having 40 taps. So it's kind of cool. And I'd say that's one thing that definitely does bring some people out is
Right.
the variety. We
Right.
always try new things. We're always liking to push the envelope. But the last year and a half has been a lot of us repeating some of the things that we did the first couple of years. That a lot of those beers we've only brewed one time, and so it's just kind of switching back to saying, okay, let's go back and let's revisit some of these beers that we've done in the past. And I don't know if it's any easier than creating them new. I almost feel it's harder to, the
Right.
first time you crank a beer out, it is what it is. The next time, if it's different, then everybody notices. So really kind of, trying to go back and hit things again and again and again. But I think the variety is one thing that definitely brings people out. We added food because that was the number one. I mean, three three out of every 4 phone calls was, "What do you have for food? Do you have food?" It was obvious that individuals wanted the food, so
Right.
that was definitely one of the things. We can see a big help. Our patio brings out a lot of people now. It's
Yeah,
on the west or
for
the east
sure.
side of the building. It's shaded all afternoon, and it's a beautiful space. So people like that. And honestly, our staff, we have a really nice staff. We've been really fortunate. We Up until the last probably month, we've really had no staffing issues throughout the entirety of COVID, from our kitchen to front of house to the brewery to everything. Right now, we're just a little bit tight in the kitchen because we had 4 people walk out at once that were all related, and just big long story, but it's all good now. And to
Cool.
me, every time those things happen, I like to embrace it as an opportunity because I feel I've managed and supervised people my whole life, and I feel like there's always things that you just let slide. Like
Right.
I'd rather this person doesn't do this way, but it seems like they're happy. I'm gonna just let them do it.
It's
But then as soon as
another lesson
they're
learned.
yeah, exactly. And then sometimes it's like, all right, I know that's how they did it. That's not how we do it now. Here's how
Right.
we go.
So
But sorry, go ahead.
speak. Yeah, speaking of, like, you talk about lessons learned there.
Yeah.
What do you think's been the biggest lesson learned so far since opening?
Like the entire brewery,
Yeah, since
or
opening
just
your doors. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, my
Um,
besides COVID, obviously.
I'd say write everything down. Every idea, just write them down. Because that'd be the best, I guess, advice that I would give. Because I've had so many ideas over the years, that then I don't write them down, and then it's just like, oh, I knew I had a solution for this problem, or dang it, and then it's just I call them shower ideas. I have a crap every day
Right.
in the shower. I'll be like, oh my god, and then honestly, a lot of them are gone by the time
Yeah.
I'm driving to work. I just because I didn't write it down, and so that would be a big struggle to me, is just not remembering all the good ideas that I have because I don't write them down. So,
I bet.
and at this day and age, there's no excuse, but it still happens. So,
Is there anything that if you can go back and redo one thing differently, that you would do?
God, I'm sure that there is, um, but nothing really jumps out at me like this was a fail and we never should have done this.
Right.
There's like a few beers, like there's some specific beers over the years that I would have been
Okay.
like, oh, I never should have done that one, or I wish I didn't. a kind of a funny side story along those lines, if you don't mind, really quick,
Yeah, sure.
is I've come up and I couldn't tell you like the exact name or like design or anything right now, but there's been a few beers over the years that I've been like really excited about the name or the label idea, and then we do it and we put it out, and the beer just doesn't live up to what and it pisses me off
Yeah.
just because I feel like I wasted a great idea or a good name or a good
Right.
label. And it's just like, dang, I can't go back and fix that. In this day and age, it's just one of those things that kind of bugs me. Like, so what I
Right.
did to get around that is like IPAs. They're all over. I love to play around with different stuff. But coming up with a new beer name, coming up with a new beer label idea, all the little steps to get all that stuff done, or can be quite a bit of work and a little bit of hassle. And so I finally came up with this idea that I just wanted a beer that I don't have to think about as
Okay.
far as the different versions that come out, and I wanted to play with a bunch of different hops, the hop, the styles, the actual hops, when to
Right.
add them. There's so many different hop products out there now. It's
Of course.
awesome. And so I wanted to just play around with those. So I came up with this new beer series called Dad Jokes, and we're about to release series 4 next week. Our release number 4. I don't even remember what we called them, volume 4. But the
Okay.
whole idea is that everyone is the same basic label. And then it's just different hot. It's a different IPA. It's not the same base beer. Everyone is a radically different IPA.
Okay.
And it's just the opportunity for me to play around. And then they all feature different dad jokes. So we have a cool label
Very good.
process that we invoked, so that like when you get a 4-pack, odds are at least 3 of the 4 cans are going to have different jokes on them.
Okay.
Back to my roots of Laffy Taffy jokes, stuff like that as a kid. You're
Do
looking
you
at the
have a
different
Do you have
rappers.
a favorite dad joke?
I don't really. I
No.
mean, whatever pisses off my kids at the time. It's oh, it's kind of bad, but they just give me these looks, and I'm like, Dad, and
Yeah.
so really, whatever, just being stupid. I think those are pretty good. But it's sitting right here. My wife knew that I was working on this, so one of
Holy shame.
my Christmas or birthday gifts there was a book full of dad jokes. So
Right.
there's some pretty good ones. But yeah, it's been fun. So we did a couple of hazy IPAs, played with some new yeasts in the first one, some new hopping processes in the second. Number 3, we did a cold IPA, and that's the one that's out right now. We just about run it out.
Okay.
The idea is that we'll release the next one, right, is the previous one is finishing out, and it's just the pace has been going about every 3 to 4 weeks right now. So, but it's been a lot of fun. We've got a brown IPA that'll be coming out next week, which
Interesting.
a lot of people have never heard of
Yeah, I've
or
heard of
seen a
black
brown
IPA.
IPA.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Dogfish Head does an Indian brown ale,
Yes,
uh,
it's very
and
good. Very good.
yeah, and yep, and I've not been able to find it fresh for probably 6 years.
I
Every
know.
time I see it somewhere, it's like
Funny you
four,
mentioned that
five,
because I
six
thought
months
of that
old.
not too long ago. It's
Yeah,
funny you say that.
so that was really my inspiration for this beer was I can't find that one fresh on the shelves.
Might as well make
Let's
your own
just see
thing.
what happens. So yeah,
So
yeah, and then we're just gonna start playing around with a lot of stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
cool. Yeah. So, do you think there's a certain mindset that you need for owning a brewery? And how do you set your mind up to for every day to go into the brewery and being a business owner and an entrepreneur?
I really believe that it's going to be similar to almost any business.
Okay.
I mean, you gotta be able to have tough skin. What you've probably have heard before,
Right.
because there's so many things that are going to come at you. The one thing that I'd say makes it really difficult, and I couldn't say if this is business or brewery specific or just any business, because I haven't owned other businesses. I've run many other businesses, but there's a lot of decisions that even if you're the manager of the whole company, there's still decisions that a company, an owner or a board of directors or somebody else is going to be involved with. So it's really unique when all of a sudden it all stops to you. You don't have anybody else to turn and say, all right, what do we do? It's all come up to you at that point. So I'd say that that's really something different to keep in mind, that everyone is coming to you for the answers, and everybody listens to you a lot more like detail wise. I'm
Okay.
really like, man, I'll just throw stuff out all the time, and it's come back at me a lot. Like, well, but the other day you said this, you said that, and so that's to me that's been like a oh shit, like
Right.
everybody listens to everything I say all the time, and
Right.
that honestly I've never experienced that before, to the level of owning a brewery. The other thing too is that choose your battles. I think I mentioned earlier that it seems like if an employee leaves for whatever reason, that's when I'll make some changes. And that's because sometimes and I don't know if it's even specific to the brewery, to be honest, but I've encountered things in my life where somebody's really adamant about doing it this way. And
Right.
do I really care? Like
Right.
I learned it at my last job, and now here I let it carry through. But the best way I can say it is let me just give you like an easy example. Like you're putting shoes away for somebody, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but you're putting shoes away, and
Sure.
yeah,
Why not?
and I want them all stacked straight. So you got a pair together here, and a pair together here, and a pair together there, and that's how I'd like to see it. And then somebody else comes in, and they just like to just kind of put them all so they're all lined up together, and or turned sideways, or they do something different. And I'm looking at like no that, but then I'll stop and think, does that really matter? Like, does anybody give a shit? Like,
Right.
does it really matter?
The
And I
micromanaging
guess
is
yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah, right. There's no need
and so
for it.
that's
Right.
where I guess I've come a long way the last few years is I'm trying to empower my staff. I would like everybody to just know what to do. I hate having to tell anybody what to do ever, but you have to do that all the time when you own a company.
Right.
So just think how cool it is if everybody just knows what to do, but also knows they're not going to get in trouble if they do it wrong. You know,
Right.
if it's a major screw up, I think that's an issue. But otherwise, that's my mindset, I guess, is I want people to be able to come in and just do the job that they know they're supposed to do,
Right.
and not be fearful of getting in trouble if they make a small mistake, because we're all going to make mistakes all the time. So, but
And
I will tell you this: I super digress if you didn't pick up on that already. But my big thing is when I come in, I'm always like, I'm going to do this today and this today and this today. And I'd say there's probably only one day a week where what I want to come in and do actually happens. And that's just because as a business owner, as a brewery owner, somebody who works in a environment like ours, you never know what you're going to encounter um, until you get in there. And
of
it
course,
just happens almost every single day. And at first it was really, really frustrating. Now I'm just kind of used to it. So it's like,
that's why it's
what am
important
I
to
going to do today?
write that stuff down, like you said.
It is. It is. I think actually I can't read it, but I don't know if, yeah, this is what I had them put on the
Got
back of my
maintenance.
shirt. Yeah. Because that's really what I feel like.
Right.
I come in and today I spent, a couple hours doing maintenance related things, but, um, and that's, I guess, where we're starting to get to now is we do have the staff that knows what their job is and they know what they got to do. And so they come in and do it. And then I can start looking at what do you need me to do for you? And so that's where my job's really shifted a lot from me saying, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, to what can I do for you?
Right.
And I think it's a good place to be. I really like that. I'd rather be support for my staff than my staff be
Right. I
support for
think
me.
that's what makes a great owner, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah. Thanks,
Uh,
Jeff.
yeah, a lot of people talk about the flooding of the market with craft beer. Uh, how do you feel the future looks like? What does the future look like, in your opinion, for the craft beer market and even in Illinois?
I really wish I knew the exact answer to that, to be honest with you. But yeah,
Is there
it,
a way that you see that it's going, or
um, I feel like it's starting to slow down a little bit as far as the new growth and the new add-ons and things like that.
okay,
I will tell you, I'm still bewildered whenever I see somebody opening up like a new packaging brewery right now, um, because it really doesn't feel like that's the shift that it's going. We had a really, really big run, for the last couple of years, leading up to the pandemic, the first year of the pandemic. But right now, and not just us, talking to a lot of people as well, it really feels like it's going to be a more, or it's currently trending towards a more on-premise kind of market. People that want to go out they want to go out and hang out and go see something, hang
Right.
out with friends, see other people, all the BS everybody went through the last couple of years. It makes sense, and that's really where we're kind of see it going. And we felt that it might be going a little bit that way anyways, and that's why we put a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort into building a restaurant.
Right.
Building a much larger space. I think we had 35 seats at our last in our last tap room, and now we've got like 300 some between indoor and outdoor seating. So um, that's really where I see. But
Right.
I, whenever I go to the stores, man, there's so much beer out there now.
Of course. It's
It's
crazy.
really pretty. Yeah, as a business
It's
owner who owns a
awesome.
brewery,
It's awesome to see. It's an
yeah.
amazing thing. Is there a moment that sticks out for you in your head that was a defining moment of success?
Um, no, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I've been asked something very similar to that
Right.
several times the last few years, and I don't feel successful yet. And I think a lot of people feel like, well, look at this place though, it's awesome, and you got all this. And I think everybody has to determine what is successful to you.
Right.
And successful to me is not just having a business that a lot of people see, and or that a lot of people know of. We have to have certain things to indicate to us when we've reached what we deem successful.
Right.
And to me, I really thought about this for a while, and it was about 6 months when it dawned on me. And I just showed you what the back of my shirt says. And I think once I get to the point where I have a head brewer and a head of maintenance, then I will feel successful. Because that's when I'll feel
Shining
I'll be
moment.
at the point. Yeah, because then I'll feel that I'll be at the point that I'm not working in my business as
Right. Right.
much as working on my business.
Of
And right
course.
now we're at the
That's
point
huge.
where yeah, I have daily tasks. I mean, I'm picking up a mop or a broom or a hose or something every single day. And I'm not saying I'm above that or that I don't want to, still be involved with my business, but right now I have to be. I would like to be able to choose to be involved. Oh, hey, we want a new marketing idea, or oh, I want to do that.
Right.
Please let me. Now I'm putting out fires. I'm repairing things. That's what I'm doing. So that's my answer. I don't think I'm successful yet, but once I've reached to the point where I can hire and have a good head of maintenance and a good head brewer, along with all the staff that we already have, I feel that I'll be successful because my business will be kind of running it, and,
Right.
and I can help it, not have to help it. So,
Well, I pray for that. Pray for that soon for you, man. Um,
yeah, we'll see.
and what was your gateway beer into the craft beer world?
That was Guinness. That's the one I mentioned
Guinness.
earlier.
Guinness was the
So,
one.
yep.
All right.
So I tried a lot of others. I drank, the Blue Moon was up there. What was it? J.W. Dundee Honey Brown, I think is what it was
Okay.
called. I used to drink some of those. Hazed and Infused was one by, I think it was Boulevard Brewing, or
Boulevard.
Boulder Brewing Company, Boulder Brewing Company a while ago. So there was those, but Guinness was the one that really led me to try the Porter from Hell, and then from
Right.
there I got hooked. So,
Awesome. And what does the future look like for your brewery? What's next
um,
for Little Beaver?
Well, to be honest with you, we've had our eyes out for other spaces. We're just not sure if within our community is the best place to add another space, or if it's to branch out in another community, whether that's another town in Illinois or another state altogether. And just the last couple of years have been so weird with pandemic and now with supplies and equipment and just everything going on.
Right.
We're at a pretty good spot right now. So I'd say at least for the rest of this year, we're gonna just kind of see how everything goes. There's just been so many changes and things as they're affecting everybody in the entire world. So I'd say our 5 year plan has changed a lot in the last 2.5 years. So I really couldn't give you a good thing, but
That's
we're constantly seeking new ways to do what we do better.
of course just
So
constantly
that's what
adapt,
we'll.
basically.
Yep.
At the
Yep.
moment, just adapt. Good enough.
Exactly.
Good enough.
Yep.
And if somebody came to you and asked you for advice on opening their own brewery, what advice would you give them? I'm
I would
sure
say
this
it tongue
happens a
in
lot.
cheek. Yeah, I would say don't do it right now. And then that would be my honest to God opinion, just
Right.
because of all the competition, all the hurdles and everything right now. I mean, it was rough when we opened several years ago with all the hurdles to go through.
Hmm.
I can't imagine, trying to order equipment and then hearing uh, 8 to 18 months. I mean, how do you plan for those kinds of things?
Yeah. Right.
There's big talk of the wheat crop being crazy, like maybe not available. And think of how many beers use wheat. We use it in almost every single beer we make. All those kinds of things. So that would be if it was right now, my honest opinion would be plan, but don't do it. Collect
Plan
your money
2
and
years out.
yeah, get ready to buy one that folds or something, because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
probably, I hate to say it, but there's a good chance a lot of that'll happen. But if somebody's adamant and really wants to do it, I would say do your research, figure out what are you going to do that's different in your market. I mean, I think we're pretty fortunate here in Central Illinois because there isn't tons of competition. But you look at, areas like Chicago and stuff like that, and I mean, there's so many breweries that are opening up, and
Yeah.
even people that I know that live up there and follow all that stuff, they're like, I can't even keep up with them nowadays. Like, I'm running into new breweries every week that I've never heard of, and it's pretty wild to me. So that's what I just say is make sure you figure out what are you going to do to create your niche. What's going to make you stand out from everybody else, and not just be another IPA or another wheat beer or another
Right.
something on the shelf. And the market's evolved so much that you can't just make great beer, and you also can't just make really wild and crazy beer. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everybody's doing that, and you have breweries that have been around for 30 years that are making wild and crazy beer, and they've always made really good beer. So it just shows you how when the little guys start doing crazy stuff to make a name for themselves, and then all of a sudden you turn around and see the really big regional breweries doing the same kind of stuff, it's like, whoa,
Yeah. Right.
how do you
Exactly.
stand out in a
Yeah. How do you
crowded
stand up?
market? So
It's tough.
yeah, yep. So that's what I would just tell somebody is make sure you know what you're getting into as
For sure.
far as what's going to make you better. So,
And did you happen to have a funny story for us?
yeah, I've got two of them. I'll
Okay.
throw you one
Perfect.
really. It's just a little side thing. I mentioned when I got my first brewery tour, how the bartender said, "I don't know, like ask the guy next to you."
Yeah.
He's the brewer. He probably knows when we'll have that beer again. She actually works for us now, so I think that's kind of
Very
funny.
cool.
We
Yeah.
figured
Right.
that out a few months ago. I was like, oh my god, that absolutely was her. And the other one is we were in a competition. It was a beer festival competition.
Right.
God, it would have been I think 3 years ago in Chicago in the Oak Park neighborhood, and it's called the Oak Park Microbrew Review, and they do this Iron Brewer Challenge that they did, which it was basically like you get the style and you have to make it, and then they let all the fans or the patrons of the festival vote on it.
Okay.
And we were in it, and I was just there and hanging out. And I was back at my table when they were announcing the winners and all that stuff. And I was with the guys next to us. I don't even remember what brewery it was. And we were just all BSing. And all you could hear of going on was just, and so we're just kind of like, oh, yeah, like, oh, I bet we won. And then, the tables next to us
Yeah.
are all like, oh, no, we didn't win. And then all of a sudden, some guy comes running up to me. He's like, you did win. And I was like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And then he was like,
Wow.
no, dude, literally, listen. He's like, they're telling your name right up there. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. And I just turned and I was like, this guy's crazy, And then all of a sudden, like three people came around. They're like, congrats, oh, you guys won. And I
That's
was like,
awesome.
wait, we actually, wait, we did. And then they convinced me to go walking up there, and I was like, I literally still couldn't understand anything. And then when I
Right.
got up there, they're like, oh wait, he is here. They were just getting ready to like I don't know, pack up the trophy and stuff like that to send to me because I thought I already left. But that was kind of funny. We were making fun of
Awesome.
not being able to hear, and I happened to be the winner. So,
You should have handed
and
them the trophy back for worst sound system ever.
right, right. It was just busy. It was just so busy, but it was pretty rough sound system. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was
That's
my
so.
story for you. So,
They needed a couple of sound checks beforehand, probably.
yeah,
Um,
yep,
and I have a little segment called Quick Fire Five. It's five quick
sure,
questions, beer related.
good deal.
Uh, somebody comes into your brewery. What's one of the beers you'd recommend they try?
Wayne it's our best-selling hazy pale ale, so pretty approachable. Almost everybody seems to enjoy it, so that'd be the one.
Awesome. Favorite brewery other than your own?
Man, boy, it's hard telling. I'd say microphone. So Mike's a good guy. I just saw him this weekend in Iowa, but he was my first professional collab, and it was just I always liked his brewery beforehand, and he was just a real genuine good guy when I got to
Right.
know him. So I thought it was great to see that the man behind, the place was as good as his beer and as good as his reputation. So.
Very cool. Uh, Favorite style of beer?
Hazy IPAs.
Hazies.
Yeah, I
They're good.
was not into IPAs at all when I started the brewery. I always joke about I was into IPA or hops before they were sexy. But now that's about all that I drink. So,
Awesome. Uh, Favorite name you've come up with for one of your beers?
uh, probably the one that got me the best response at my first beer festival, which was Big Hairy Beaver.
Big.
And just everybody was chanting "Tap that Beaver" because I did a special release and made them wait till 9 o'clock. And we haven't brewed it since. We switched up our naming profile to be a lot more family friendly and not as
Understood.
raunchy.
Understood.
And so that was it. I don't use it. Someday we will bring it back and do a release with it, but we have not yet. So
Can't wait. And it's a great name. And you have one keg of beer to hold you over for a 2 week quarantine. Which beer are you using?
uh, on it, it'd have to be a Hefeweizen. If there was just one beer for 2 weeks, I think I could
Any
easily.
specific?
Uh, Not really, honestly. Any really good, well-made Hefeweizen. I like my own, but I'm my own worst critic. So,
Okay.
I always find a flaw when I'm drinking my own, one way or another. So yeah, I don't really, Wine Hefeweizen, that's a good one. Just any really good hef though. I'm not super picky. So
Gotcha. Well, Chad, that's all I got for you, man. Appreciate it.
excellent. My
Yeah.
pleasure, man. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew Old Daughter podcast here with Chad Beavers of Little Beaver Brewery in Bloomington, Illinois. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent. Have a good one.